to Darnise's House of Religion, Magic, and Conjure. And I'm back with another video. I have been inspired by the new movie. You've probably heard about it, Honk for Jesus. Sorry if you're hearing this noise from outside, but you know, it's hot. It's in LA. I'm in LA and we're having a heat wave. So the window has to be open. Anyway, it's about Honk for Jesus, and it is a film, a satire slash comedy, starring Regina Hall and Sterling K. Brown. And again, if you've been on social media, you've probably been hearing about it, and are wondering what's the big deal about it. Well, I want to talk about it because it involves the Black church, or a perspective on the Black church. Again, it's satire, so it's meant to exaggerate some things, but we really wonder how much it is really being exaggerated, because uh, they play a pastor and a first lady of a church. And so if you're grew up in the Black church, or even just been to the Black church, those positions are very high status positions in the Black community, to be pastor of a church, and or to be first lady. Highly desired positions, actually, right? For a number of reasons. And so anyway, the film really shows like this couple is struggling to get their church back open after a scandal. And we know plenty of ministers in churches end up in various types of scandal. It is pretty much around money or sex, right? With the wrong person. And so in this film, we're looking at it's shot like a mockumentary, like a documentary, but a mockumentary. So we're seeing them be interviewed and followed around, kind of like reality show style. And we're aware that there's a scandal that has happened that has shut the church down, and now they're having to come back, right? And so they're really excited about the comeback, and they're talking about the comeback. And so you got to kind of read between the lines of what the scandal was. But because the scandal is kind of always the same, we have a pretty good idea. And then as the movie continues to go, you're like, this is pulling from that Eddie Long scandal, which some of y'all might remember. If you don't, I'll talk about it briefly here, but you can also just Google Eddie Long and New Birth Missionary Baptist Church in the Atlanta area. Y'all might remember, some of y'all might be in Atlanta and absolutely know, like Eddie Long was this very well-known pastor. He was on TV for a while, in fact, televangelist, but it costs a lot of money to be on TV, so he wasn't on that long. But in any case, he was very set in his traditional conservative way that homosexuality is wrong, and he was continuing to stand on that platform and continue to be very critical of LGBTQ plus people. Then the scandal comes out that he had been offering gifts to young men who he was mentoring in his community. Now, this is the real life story, in case you're like, is this the movie? This the real life. If you Google Eddie Long Missionary Baptist Church, you'll find that. That was the scandal. And, so then he had to kind of, manage that. Like, it looks like, because these men came forward and said what he wanted in return for these gifts of items and money, in his effort to, help these young men in their lives. And so back to the movie, Honk for Jesus, we see that the pastor, played by Sterling K. Brown, is in that situation. That's what we're dealing with. And now we see the first lady is dealing with the shame and humiliation around that, which has to be unspoken also. So it's about secrets in the Black church. Those things that can't be spoken, right? People know that all kind of abuse is going on, or this indiscretion is going on, but it involves the pastor, and so we're not going to mention it. But here's Regina Hall playing his wife, and she's trying to be enthusiastic and eagerly support her man, which of course is her role. right? The role often assigned to Black women is that they should just, completely support their man, no matter what how he's fallen from grace, and what it might cost her in terms of her own integrity. So we see the first lady, she's got the look, she's got everything perfect, and they've got, closet full of beautiful designer clothes, so they look perfect on the outside. But what you get to see is that, all that glitters is not gold, and you see under the surface. And you see through the lens of Regina Hall. So there's a critique happening about what the Black church has become, the status associated with those roles, pastor and first lady. Why are people, the congregation members, typically going along with whatever the pastor says, even though stuff is shady? We get to the critique. Okay, a first lady is expected to support her husband no matter what, her husband and her church no matter what. If not, then it means that she's not faithful to God, she's not faithful to her husband, she's not faithful to the community, and all like that. So because this is a satire, we see some things happening that, might seem an exaggeration, though I'm not really sure what's really the exaggeration in the film. But there's a satire. And we see her struggle and try to get to her personal center, try to get to her authentic point. Y'all know I'm big on that. That's why I wrote this book, 40 something, how to live and love without losing yourself. Because often what happens, especially for women, is we get caught up in a situation, a relationship, a role, a job, and it sucks the life out of us. But you keep going because that's what's expected of you. So in this film, we're really getting to see this first lady really just barely start to come to herself. Because she even goes to her mother and says, I don't think I can go through with this anymore, being married to him. And her mother has clearly done that role herself, has been a first lady and done this whole thing, and is telling her daughter, you have to suck it up. Don't you believe in God? You better take it to your Bible and take it in prayer to God. So she doesn't get any support from her mother even. She's just supposed to go through this process that is humiliating her out on the street in public. So honk for Jesus. They're literally out on the sidewalk, honk for Jesus. And maybe you've seen, a clip from it where she's in white face as a mime, which we could talk about the mask that people are expected to wear, the mask that church people often wear. When they get to church, they're, in a certain kind of role or presentation of self. And they don't really live that out. And so you get this community of people who are pretending at the church house and then going back to their regular lives and acting how they really act, and then judging each other, right? Because everybody's not doing what they're supposed to do, but you're not doing what you're supposed to do either. And we understand that the pastor is even often not living by the morals that he's preaching. Now, so I obviously recommend that you go and watch it. Some people are upset about it. Some Christians are upset about it because they think that, people are continually attacking Christianity, attacking the Black man, attacking pastors, making light of the role of first lady. So you have some people who are, some church people who are upset about it. I'm not really sure. I mean, I just said why some people are upset. I don't get that, really. I mean, if it's you, it's you. If it's your church, it's your church. If it's not your church, then what's the problem? Or did you go to New Birth under Eddie Long? Are you kind of joking on what you know to be true and some behaviors that you've seen yourself? And maybe that behavior of wearing a certain kind of a mask and going through the motions, that's something you've been doing yourself and you've been trying to kind of hide from it. So that's, one theory about why people are so upset. But of course, it's like there's this underlying kind of idea that the Black church should be above reproach without any criticism. And we all know that's not going to happen because there's a lot of things that go on in churches that are just not right. And people are leaving those churches for a variety of reasons. We know that church membership has been declining over the past 2 decades, right? Tremendously. We know that it is Black women who are predominantly the ones who remain in the Black church, who've always been, Black women have always been the main people in the Black church, um, main supporters, right? And so at this point in time, it is so blatantly obvious. Walk into any Black church on any Sunday, and you're going to see it's mostly full of Black women with our time, our energy, our money, supporting that church and supporting that pastor who is still usually male, right? And so that institution still requires critique because then women are still to remain silent, right? Women are still supposed to be to submit to her husband and her pastor in a church, and we don't live like that anymore. We just, it's over. And like a good friend of mine said, when people criticize her for criticizing the church, when people criticize her and say she shouldn't, especially when it's one of the male pastors criticizing her because she has a public platform, and so and she's written a book, Red Lipstick Theology, actually, in case you want to go there. Candace Bimbo is her name, Red Lipstick Theology. She gets a lot of pushback and criticism, and she said, you know who I'm not worried about? I'm not worried about the man who needs me for his next meal. I'm not worried. You need me to make your car payment, to make your house note, to eat. I'm not worried about you. You should be worried about me, because if I'm not coming to your congregation because you're talking trash about me, you got a problem, pastor, because now you're a pastor without a flock. So anyway, the movie Honk for Jesus, we haven't seen it, is worth a look, right? And expected to be satirical, so it's somewhat an exaggeration of things, but it's entertaining. At least it is entertaining, and I would be curious what you think about it. Now, I talked about this in my Facebook group. I have a private Facebook group for Black women over 40, Black women at midlife. And so if you are interested in joining us, Black Women at Midlife, where we talk about these things much more, then put in the comments below that, yes, send me the link for the Facebook group, and I will send you the link for the Facebook group. And if you have been with me all this time, you know what to say, long haul, right? And I appreciate y'all. So, all right, that's it for now. Bye.